The crack of gunfire echoed across the Karid Basin desert, a sharp, unforgiving sound that pierced the night like a betrayal. Staff Sergeant Aisha Thompson, a disciplined black woman with the steady hands of a master sniper, collapsed to her knees, blood blooming across her uniform, soaking into the parched sand. The wind whipped around her, carrying the bitter, acrid smell of gunpowder that clung to her like a curse. With trembling fingers, she reached back to touch the eagle tattoo etched into her skin, a symbol of freedom and unyielding strength, whispering through gritted teeth, 47-1968, Father, I'll soar high. But who had pulled the trigger, and what secrets did those numbers hold, etched in her memory like a code from a forgotten war? In the haze of pain, her mind drifted back to the base, where life was a relentless grind under the harsh sun of Karid. Mornings started with PT sessions, the air thick with dust and sweat, where Aisha pushed harder than anyone, her muscles burning as she outran the pack. Yet her white male comrades sidelined her, their eyes sliding past her like she was invisible. "Quota girl," they'd mutter in the mess hall, the bitter scent of overbrewed coffee mingling with their mocking laughter. "Stick to support roles, Thompson. Quotas don't lead." The words stung, a daily reminder of the barriers she'd faced since enlisting, barriers built on the color of her skin and the fact she was a woman in a man's world. Aisha was quiet by nature, her discipline forged in the fires of adversity, but her skills were unmatched. Perched on a ridge during drills, she'd adjust her Barrett M82 sniper rifle with precision, accounting for wind correction. Real-world marksmanship like the old Kentucky windage her father had taught her, where you felt the breeze on your cheek and let instinct guide the shot. The bullet would sing true, hitting targets at 1,000 yards with deadly accuracy. But beneath that calm exterior lay a deep wound. Her father, a black soldier lost in the shadows of the Vietnam War, caught in a scandal of stolen weapons and high-level corruption. He'd been sold out, abandoned by the system he trusted, his death shrouded in whispers of betrayal that echoed the civil rights struggles of his time. Marches for equality, fights against a world that saw people like them as expendable. That loss fueled her self-doubt, whispering in quiet moments that she'd never rise above the discrimination. Was she just another token, destined to be overlooked? Yet, in her pocket, she carried a faded letter from her mother, the paper worn from countless readings. "My daughter, the eagle doesn't bow to headwinds. It spreads its wings and rises, no matter the storm." Those words were her anchor. They're a human thread in the cold machinery of military life, reminding her of the resilience passed down through generations. Still, doubt gnawed at her. During a recent training exercise, Aisha nailed a perfect shot, the target disintegrating under her fire as her comrades watched in stunned silence. But when promotion lists came out, her name was absent, again. "Not this time, Thompson," her superior had said, his eyes avoiding hers. What were they hiding? Something bigger than prejudice, something rotten at the core of the command. Little did she know, the answer was barreling toward her like a convoy in the night. The denial of her promotion lingered like a shadow over Aisha's thoughts, a nagging whisper that the system was rigged deeper than she knew. Days blurred into nights at the base, but soon the call came, unavoidable, pulling her into the storm she'd sensed brewing. Colonel Harlan Brooks, a stern white officer with a voice like gravel, summoned her to the command tent under the relentless Karid sun. "Thompson," he barked, his eyes cold and assessing, "you're on overwatch for a high-priority intercept. Convoy of stolen weapons heading to insurgents. Neutralize if necessary." Aisha's pulse quickened as she geared up, the weight of her Barrett M82 familiar in her hands. Perched on a rocky outcrop overlooking the desert valley, she scanned the horizon through her scope. The convoy appeared like ghosts in the heat haze, 3 armored trucks, escorts bristling with firepower. But as she zoomed in, something twisted in her gut. The serial numbers on the crates gleamed under the sun, matching their own arsenal's logistics tracing system, like barcode scans in a warehouse supply chain that she'd memorized during inventory drills. These weren't enemy spoils. They were straight from U.S. stocks. Her mind raced through tactical calculations, bullet drop at 1,000 yards, wind shear pulling left at 5 knots. "Overwatch to command," she radioed, her voice steady despite the unease. "Sir, these crates are ours. Confirm target?" Brooks's response crackled through her earpiece, sharp and unyielding. "Intel's solid, Sergeant. Take the shot if they deviate." But then, the small twist that chilled her. Through the crosshairs, she spotted Sergeant Marcus Hale, an old black comrade from basic training, directing the unload. His face, lined with the same struggles she'd known, shared stories of prejudice over MREs, now stared back from the enemy side. "Ally or traitor? The system sells out people like us," her father's words echoed, a ghost from Vietnam's betrayals, where good men were sacrificed for corrupt deals. Outrage built as Brooks pressed, "Friendlies? Negative. Engage on my mark." How could he order fire on their own? Aisha's finger hovered over the trigger, her heart pounding against the injustice. But before deciding, she touched the eagle tattoo on her back, drawing strength from its promise of flight above the storm. Quietly, she activated her helmet cam, recording everything. The crates, the faces, the lie unfolding below. But what horror would the footage reveal, hidden in the shadows of command? The footage captured it all, the crates with their damning serial numbers, Marcus Hale's familiar face among the escorts, the whole operation reeking of deception. Aisha's finger froze on the trigger, her breath catching as the outrage boiled up inside her. This wasn't a clean intercept, it was a setup, and firing now would make her complicit in whatever dark game Brooks was playing. "Command," she radioed, her voice firm despite the storm raging in her chest. "I have visuals on friendlies. Sergeant Hale from our unit, request abort. Repeat, abort." Brooks's response exploded through the comms like a slap. "Hesitation due to your color, Thompson? Or just incompetence? Obey or be labeled insubordinate." The words hit harder than any bullet, igniting a fire of indignation. How dare he reduce her caution to race, as if her black skin made her unreliable. Around her, she could almost hear the echoes of her white comrades' mockery from the base. Quota girls got cold feet again. The group conflict gnawed at her, their prejudices a constant barrier, while her internal doubt whispered louder. "Am I just another statistic in a white man's game, destined to be doubted, dismissed, sacrificed like so many before?" In that moment, Aisha nearly quit, her resolve cracking under the weight. But then, memories of her mother flooded in, a shift from her father's war stories to the fierce activism that defined her family's fight. Her mother, a civil rights foot soldier, had marched alongside echoes of Martin Luther King Jr., facing down hoses and hatred with unbowed dignity. "Your father fought like Dr. King," her mother had told her in hushed tones during childhood visits to memorials. "Not with guns, but with truth against a system built on lies. He stood for justice when the world said sit down." Those words, etched in Aisha's soul, stirred something unbreakable. She wasn't quitting, she was rising. With renewed fire, Aisha switched to an encrypted channel, attempting to upload the footage to higher command. But midway the signal died, remotely disabled, a digital kill switch from somewhere up the chain. Her comms crackled with static, Brooks's voice cutting through. "Last chance, Sergeant." Who had blocked her, and why? The answer lurked in the shadows, pulling her deeper into the fight. The blocked upload left Aisha's heart racing, the desert wind howling like a warning as she hunkered down behind a boulder, her position exposed and her trust in the chain of command shattered. Who had cut her off? The question burned, but she couldn't dwell. Survival demanded action. Switching to a secondary encrypted channel she'd rigged from scavenged gear, she sent a distress ping to a contact she'd heard whispers about in the shadows of the base. Jamal Reed, a black journalist turned whistleblower, ex-Army intel with a reputation for digging where others feared. The channel crackled to life, and Jamal's voice came through, steady and resonant, like an old radio broadcast from the civil rights era. "Sergeant Thompson, I've been monitoring chatter. That footage you tried to send, it's got Brooks's fingerprints all over the jam. Get moving. They're closing in." Aisha hesitated, her sniper's caution kicking in, but something in his tone, familiar, unflinching, pulled her forward. As she broke cover and slipped into the ravine's shadows, Jamal guided her evasion in real time. "Use dead reckoning navigation," he instructed, his words a lifeline. "No GPS, they'll track that. Plot your course by landmarks, like our ancestors on the Underground Railroad, navigating by stars and sheer will to escape the chains." He explained it simply. Estimate distance paced, adjust for terrain slope, factor in compass headings without tech. It was historical survival reborn in modern warfare, a technique that saved lives when systems failed. As Aisha pressed on, weaving through the dunes with newfound agility, Jamal revealed the twist that hit her like a gut punch. "I've got documents on your father, Aisha. Dug into Pentagon files years ago. His death in '68 wasn't accidental. It was tied to an arms scandal, weapons funneled to the wrong hands under cover of war. High-ups like Brooks's predecessors covered it up, sacrificing black soldiers to protect their deals." Aisha's breath caught, her mind flashing to faded photos of her father in uniform, a man who'd believed in the American dream despite the odds. "How? How do you know?" she whispered, emotion cracking her voice. Jamal paused, his own pain evident. "Because I lost my career like your father did, asking too many questions about corruption, getting blackballed for being too outspoken as a black man in intel. We overcome prejudice not by hiding, but by exposing it. Your eagle tattoo? That's the spirit. Rise above." The human connection deepened as they shared stories. Jamal's marches in the '60s, echoing her mother's activism, the quiet battles against a system that tokenized and discarded. "They see us as threats," he said, "but together we turn the tide." Tears stung Aisha's eyes, but strength surged. She touched the eagle tattoo, committing to the fight. "I'm in, what's next?" But as the channel hummed with plans, a nagging doubt remained. Would her old comrade, Marcus Hale, help or harm in the chaos ahead? The doubt about Marcus Hale gnawed at Aisha like the desert heat, but Jamal's words echoed in her ear. "Stay low. Trust your instincts." She had committed, yet the world shifted violently beneath her. A broadcast crackled across open channels, Brooks's voice cold and authoritative. "Attention all units, Staff Sergeant Aisha Thompson has gone rogue. Compromised mission integrity. Considered armed and hostile. Bounty, $150,000 for capture or confirmed elimination." The words hit like a sandstorm, turning allies into hunters. Her name now a target painted across the Carib Basin. Panic surged, but Aisha moved, rappelling down a sheer cliff face with practiced efficiency. Using the Prusik knot, a friction hitch from real military manuals, wrapping the rope around itself for a secure, self-locking grip, she descended foot by foot. Safety tips drilled into her. Always test the anchor, keep 3 points of contact, breathe steady to avoid fatigue. But the physical strain was brutal this time. Different from her earlier evasions, sweat poured down her face in rivulets, stinging her eyes, her heart pounding like a war drum against her ribs, muscles screaming from the wound's fresh ache and the relentless pull of gravity. Every slip of sand under her boots reminded her, one wrong move, and it was over. Halfway down, her comm buzzed, a private channel from Marcus Hale. "Aisha, it's me. Brooks is dirty. I was forced in. Meet at grid 47. I'll get you out." Twist of hope or a trap? His voice sounded genuine, laced with the shared history of black soldiers navigating prejudice, but doubt lingered. She touched the eagle tattoo for clarity, whispering her father's code, 47-1968, soar high. No time to decide, the real conflict erupted as bounty hunters crested the ridge above, their rifles scanning the shadows. Mercenaries, drawn by the bounty like vultures to carrion, opened fire, bullets ricocheting off rocks, forcing her to swing wildly. Aisha hit the ground rolling, her training kicking in. She set up a hasty ambush, using the terrain's natural cover, a cluster of boulders for a kill zone. One by one, she picked them off with precise shots, her Barrett barking in the night. The last hunter fell, his radio spilling into her hands. Victory surged, but as she tuned in, horror unfolded. Chatter about Shadow Vale, a planned massacre at a nearby village, framed as her rogue act. But the radio revealed a massacre plan. Can she save them in time? The radio's chatter painted a grim picture. Shadow Vale commences at dawn. Frame the rogue sniper for the village hit. Civilians as collateral. Make it look insurgent. Aisha's blood ran cold. She couldn't let innocents pay for Brooks's corruption. But saving them meant facing a series of brutal tests, each one repeating the eagle's call to rise above the storm. Jamal's voice urged her forward over the encrypted line. "You've got this. Test their loyalty. Build your own." First test came swift and stinging, reaching out to her white comrades via a scrambled signal, pleading for aid. "This is Thompson. Brooks is trafficking our weapons. I need backup at the ravine." The responses flooded in, laced with outrage-inducing prejudice. "Rogue? More like affirmative action gone wrong," one sneered. We don't back quotas who cry wolf. Their refusal hit like a gut punch, amplifying the group conflict she'd endured. The same men who'd ignored her in drills, now abandoning her in crisis. Self-doubt crept in. Was she truly alone against the machine? But she touched the eagle tattoo, its wings a reminder. Soar high, no matter the headwinds. Enemies closed in fast, contractors hardened mercenaries lured by the bounty, their vehicles kicking up dust clouds on the horizon. Aisha donned a makeshift ghillie suit, the camouflage technique, blending her into the terrain like a ghost in the brush. Education from training manuals flashed. Layer burlap and local foliage for irregular shapes, break up your outline to fool the eye. Effective in Vietnam's jungles or Iraq's deserts, turning the hunter into the hunted. She lay prone, heart steady, as they approached. That's when her ally emerged, a gradual change that fueled hope. Sergeant Lena Wright, a black woman from logistics who'd shared quiet nods in the mess hall, broke radio silence. Aisha, I saw your ping. I'm with you, sister. No more quotas holding us back. Their alliance built in hushed exchanges. Lena slipping her ammo and intel via dead drop, her voice firm. I've been sidelined too, passed over for promotions because we don't fit the profile. But if we stand together, we shatter that glass. Aisha's trust grew in that moment, a rare warmth in the cold. Thank you, Lena. We'll prove them wrong. The connection deepened, Lena recounting her own battles against bias, mirroring Aisha's pain but igniting shared resolve. They see us as threats, Lena said, but united, we're unstoppable. It was 120 words of solidarity that mended Aisha's frayed edges, turning isolation into strength. The mini-climax erupted as contractors swarmed her position. Using the ghillie suit's edge, Aisha eliminated them methodically. Silent shots dropping one, then another, her Barrett whispering death. The last fell clutching his radio, spilling secrets. Shadow Vale wasn't just a hit. It was a framed massacre at the village, evoking horrors like My Lai, where innocents were slaughtered to cover lies. Human memories fueled her justice, not her father's war this time, but varied flashbacks to children's laughter in the base's outreach programs. Tiny hands waving flags, eyes full of trust. How could Brooks doom them to silence witnesses? Victory was bittersweet, but then the misdirection struck. Marcus Hale's voice on the captured comm, ordering reinforcements her way. Temporary betrayal? Why did he sell her out? The betrayal from Marcus Hale's voice on the radio cut deeper than any blade, his orders directing more hunters her way, a temporary sellout that shattered the fragile trust she'd clung to. Why, Marcus? Aisha whispered into the night, but answers would have to wait. The village massacre loomed, and she had to approach the forward base, Brooks's inmost cave of corruption, nestled in the jagged hills of Carid. Desire burned in her, to expose it all, to save the innocents, but the path was a gauntlet of fire. Mortar rounds whistled overhead, exploding in plumes of sand and shrapnel as Aisha crept closer, her body low against the earth. Counter-sniper techniques raced through her mind. Use decoys like scattered gear to draw fire, create false heat signatures with warmed rocks to fool thermal scopes, tactics from real-world manuals, honed in conflicts where one wrong shadow meant death. But a stray fragment caught her, tearing into her shoulder, blood hot and sticky under her uniform. The pain was immediate, a searing reminder of vulnerability. She dropped behind a ridge, her breath ragged, and began field dressing the wound. Tearing strips from her sleeve, she applied pressure to staunch the flow. Basic first aid, clean with antiseptic if available, pack with gauze, wrap tightly to compress. No time for sutures, mental resilience kicked in, techniques she'd learned in survival training. Deep breathing to center, visualize success like athletes before a game, repeat affirmations to push through shock. Pain is temporary, she told herself, but justice endures. It was grit, drawing on stories of black soldiers in past wars who patched up and pressed on, turning agony into fuel. Wounded and weary, doubt crashed over her like the incoming fire. A black woman like me can't change this, she thought, the internal voice echoing generations of dismissal. The system too vast, too entrenched. But a new flashback surfaced. Not her father's, but Marcus's own tales from quieter times, shared over campfires. He'd spoken of civil rights heroes, ordinary folks marching in Selma, facing dogs and batons with unyielding spirit. They weren't superheroes, he'd said, just people like us, demanding the dream be real. Those words, now tainted by his betrayal, still stirred her. Reminders that change came from the marginalized rising up. Her calm buzzed faintly, Marcus's voice breaking through, laced with regret. Aisha, I took the deal for my family, but it's wrong. It's for a safe path. Use them. Redeem this. A crack in his facade, offering her an edge amid the chaos. Pursuers closed in, helicopters thumping, ground teams fanning out. Aisha evaded, using decoys and shadows, slipping through like a ghost. She touched the eagle tattoo, drawing strength, soar high. But as she crested the hill, distant explosions lit the sky. The massacre starts. Is she alone? The distant explosions grew into a symphony of chaos, flames licking the horizon as the massacre ignited. Aisha crested the hill alone, or so it felt, her shoulder throbbing under the hasty bandage, doubt whispering she was outmatched. But the eagle's call surged within, soar high. She sprinted toward the refugee camp, a makeshift haven of tents and desperate souls, now a stage for Brooks's depravity. Through her scope, the outrage exploded into view. Pre-recorded footage being filmed with actors posing as victims, cameras capturing scripted screams while real civilians huddled in terror. Propaganda tactics at their ugliest, similar to fake news in modern wars. Green screens for fabricated backgrounds, edited narratives to twist truth into lies, all to frame her as the monster and bury the weapons trafficking. Children darted between burning structures, their cries piercing the night like shards of glass. Aisha's heart shattered, recalling not just her father's sacrifice but the innocents he'd fought to protect in Vietnam, villages razed to hide scandals. How could she let history repeat? Not on my watch, she muttered, charging in. Contractors moved with ruthless efficiency, herding families into kill zones. She confronted them head-on, her Barrett cracking, 2 down in quick succession, their bodies crumpling as she shouted, "Drop your weapons. This ends now." Outrage fueled her. These mercenaries, paid in blood money, slaughtering the vulnerable to cover elite corruption. A young girl stumbled toward her, eyes wide with fear. Aisha scooped her up, firing over her shoulder to cover their retreat. "I've got you," she whispered, the child's sobs igniting a maternal fire she'd buried under her uniform. But the assault turned deadly. Contractors swarmed, pinning her in a concrete bunker rigged with satellite dishes, the broadcast hub. Captured, zip ties biting her wrists, she was dragged before their leader, a scarred operative sneering, "The rogue sniper herself. Brooks wants you alive, for now." Torture followed. Water poured over a cloth on her face, simulating drowning. Fists to her ribs. Questions barked. "Who'd you send the footage to? Talk." Pain blurred her vision, but close-quarters battle drills kicked in. Mental checklists from training. Exploit weaknesses, wait for openings, turn defense to offense. Emotional peaks crashed. Flashes of her mother's letters. "Rise, eagle," mingling with the child's distant wails. "You think this breaks me?" she gasped. "I've faced worse from the system every day." In a vivid surge, she twisted free during a guard's lapse, her bound hands grabbing a dropped knife. The blade sliced silently through the air, her training kicking in, thrust to the throat, pivot, slash across another's hamstring. Blood sprayed as she rolled, dodging bullets that chipped concrete. Chaos erupted. She stabbed upward into a third's gut, the wet thud echoing her fury. Elbow to a fourth's jaw, cracking bone. Adrenaline peaked, her shoulders screaming but ignored. 150 words of raw survival, sweat blinding, breaths heaving, each kill a step from victim to Avenger. "For the children," she roared, breaking free. The major twist unfolded in the command tent. General Elias Grant, a high-ranking white officer with medals masking his rot, overseeing it all. "Well done, Sergeant," he mocked, emerging from shadows. "But this global network? Arms to factions worldwide like Iran-Contra scandals. It's bigger than Brooks. National security demands sacrifices." Historical echoes rang, secret deals funding wars, black lives expendable. Aisha's transformation solidified, from hunted victim to unyielding leader, as Marcus Hale burst in, redeeming himself. "Aisha, run!" he yelled, tackling Grant's guards, bullets riddling his body as he bought her time. He died in her arms, whispering, "Make it right, for us." Satisfaction washed over her. No longer alone, she'd lead the charge. She secured the evidence. Hard drives of footage, comm logs, clutching them as sirens wailed. But what bigger plan does Grant have? Clutching the hard drives like lifelines, Aisha staggered from the burning camp, sirens wailing in the distance as Grant's contractors scattered into the night. The evidence pulsed with truth. Comm logs exposing the staged footage, financial trails of blood money, but Grant's mocking words echoed. A bigger plan, a network sprawling beyond Brooks. She couldn't stop now. Satisfaction demanded action. With Jamal's guidance crackling through her earpiece, she initiated the broadcast, hacking an open frequency to blast the confession across military channels. Open frequency hacking was a desperate art. Override protocols with a jury-rigged booster, flood unsecured bands like AM radio in old wars, ensuring every unit in range heard the unfiltered truth. She patched in the drives, logistics unfolding in her mind, sync data streams to avoid jamming, loop key segments for emphasis, tag with her service number for authenticity. It took precious minutes, uploading Grant's voice, admitting the global arms deals, Brooks's orders for the massacre, all while evading spotlights. "This is Sergeant Aisha Thompson," she declared into the void, her voice steady despite the pain. "Evidence of treason. Listen and act." The response was electric. Comrades who'd hunted her hours ago now flooded the channels, their voices a chorus of awakening. "Thompson, we were wrong," came Rodriguez's transmission, a white squad leader she'd shared patrols with. "That confession, it's undeniable. Stand by, we're rerouting to your position." Apologies poured in, raw and unscripted, building emotional closure in waves. Lena Wright, her black ally, added, "Sister, you've shattered the illusions. No more turning blind eyes." Even white comrades who'd mocked her as quota girl broke through. Williams, gruff and regretful, "Aisha, we let prejudice blind us. You fought alone while we followed lies. Forgive us." Chun from Intel, "Your broadcast hacked through our doubts. We're mobilizing raids on Brooks's sites." It was 120 words of reckoning, dialogues laced with shame and resolve, each apology a brick dismantling the walls of discrimination. "You've changed our prejudices," Rodriguez said finally, his tone thick with respect. "Lead us now, we're your team." Inspiration swelled as units converged. Helicopters shifting from pursuit to protection. Aisha, no longer the rogue but the beacon, directed them. Secure the camp remnants, protect the survivors. The human element anchored her. Slipping a hand into her pocket, she pulled her mother's final letter, received weeks ago but unread in the frenzy. "My eagle," it began, ink faded but words eternal. "In the storms of life, remember, you were born to fly, not falter. Your father's fight lives in you. Expose the darkness, heal the wounds." Tears blurred her vision, the letter a balm amid the victory, reminding her this wasn't just about survival, but legacy. Generations of black resilience from civil rights marches to her stand here culminated in this moment. Satisfaction washed over her like dawn's light, the camp secured, Grant in custody sputtering denials. But the small twist pierced the triumph. Intercepted logs revealed a larger network. Generals, contractors, even politicians entangled in the web, whispers of operations spanning continents. "This isn't over," Grant sneered as cuffs clicked. "The real power players are untouchable." Cliffhanger hung in the air. Raids on depots next, but the shadow loomed larger. The shadow of the larger network loomed like a storm cloud. Grant's revelations hinting at depots stocked with evidence that could unravel it all. Aisha couldn't rest. The road back demanded one final push. With her reformed team, comrades now united under her lead, they raced toward the ammunition depot, a fortified hillside bunker 15 miles north, its secrets buried deep. Final interest gripped her. This was the heart of the operation, where weapons were stashed for illicit sales. But as they approached under cover of night, the self-destruct threat crackled over intercepted comms, timers set to erase everything if breached. Infiltration via the service tunnel was their edge, a narrow, forgotten passage Aisha recalled from old briefs. Education from recon manuals guided them. Probe for tripwires, use fiber optic cameras to scout bends, maintain radio silence to avoid detection. The tunnel's damp walls closed in, echoing their footsteps, but conflict erupted as defensive fire pinned the entrance, machine guns chattering from elevated positions, bullets chewing the earth. "Flank left," Aisha commanded, her voice cutting through the din. Team coordination differentiated this assault. Rodriguez on overwatch with suppressors, Lena coordinating diversions via flares, Williams breaching side vents for multi-prong entry. "Sync on my mark, 3-2. She whispered 80 words of precise synergy, hand signals for silent advances, rotating fire teams to cover reloads, intel shared via encrypted bursts. It was a ballet of trust, forged from apologies and shared purpose, unlike the lone chaos of her earlier fights. No more isolation, but a unit reborn. The twist hit mid-tunnel. Jamal's signal vanished, his voice cutting off mid-sentence. "They're on to me." Captured, likely in the depot's command room, a hostage to draw her out. Aisha's gut twisted. He'd been her mentor, the voice in the darkness. Defensive fire intensified, lasers sweeping the shadows, but she pressed on, dodging ricochets that sparked off metal grates. The mini-climax built as they breached the core. Aisha led the charge, knife in hand for close work, rescuing Jamal from a guarded cell. He slumped against her, bruised but alive. The drives, they have backups. She pulled him to safety amid gunfire, touching the eagle tattoo for strength. We soar together now. But as the depot stabilized, Grant's voice boomed over speakers, taunting from custody elsewhere. What will Grant confess? Grant's taunting voice over the speakers sent a chill through the depot's echoing halls, his confession dangling like bait in the darkness. Come and get it, Thompson. The truth will break you. Aisha's team fanned out, securing rooms stocked with crates of illicit arms, but she zeroed in on the command center, her Barrett slung, knife at the ready. Desire for closure burned hot after the outrage of the camp, the children's cries, Marcus's sacrifice. This ended tonight. She kicked in the door, facing Grant across a console flickering with maps of global dealings. The major twist unfolded like a nightmare reborn. Grant, cuffed but smirking, leaned back. You think this is about Brooks? Or even me? Your father sniffed too close in Vietnam, discovered our early ops, weapons siphoned to fund shadows, so we silenced him. A friendly fire scandal, buried with the rest. Historical weight crashed down. Vietnam's ghosts, scandals like fragging and covert arms, where black soldiers like her dad were expendable pawns in power games. Aisha's world tilted, 47 to 1968, his service number, now a code for murder. You killed him? She whispered, voice cracking with emotional explosion. Grant's villain monologue spilled forth, a torrent of arrogance. He was collateral, like you. This network? Generals pulling strings since Nam, arms to Contras, insurgents, whatever keeps the machine oiled. Politicians take cuts, contractors build empires. Your dad threatened exposure, so we framed him as rogue, just like you. The system's designed that way. Sacrifice the little people for the greater game. You can't touch us. We're the architects. His words dripped venom, 100 words of cathartic revelation, justifications twisted into pride, echoing every prejudice she'd faced, every door slammed because of her skin. Aisha's triumphant response rose like a storm. Architects, you're cowards hiding in shadows. My father fought for a dream you corrupted, but I'm his daughter, here to tear it down. Fury peaked, her knife at his throat, but she spared him, twisting the blade away. Confess. All of it, names, dates, the web, lived to see it crumble. Grant broke under the pressure, his voice broadcasting live as she patched the console. Morrison in D.C., Walsh on the Hill, it's all connected. Resurrections surged. Mass arrests rolled out, 47 officers, 12 contractors hauled in chains, the network fracturing under the light. Aisha led the task force, overcoming prejudice as white comrades saluted. Ma'am, you've shown us the way. Sweet justice after outrage washed over her, the system bending, her father's memory vindicated. No longer the quota girl, but the eagle soaring free. 6 months after the depot fell, the echoes of that night still resonated through the corridors of power. Aisha Thompson stood in a Pentagon briefing room, the weight of her uniform feeling lighter now, adorned with commendations that once seemed impossible. Before a joint congressional committee, she delivered her testimony, her voice steady and resonant, drawing parallels to black women pioneers in the military, like Hazel Johnson Brown, the first black female general who shattered barriers in the face of systemic prejudice. General Johnson Brown built paths where none existed, Aisha said, fighting not just enemies abroad, but inequity at home. My stand echoes hers, a call for justice in a system that too often abandons its own. The arrests had snowballed. 47 officers, 12 contractors, and even congressional figures implicated in the web. Policy changes swept through the ranks, new oversight on arms transfers, mandatory bias training drawing from civil rights lessons, encrypted whistleblower channels to protect voices like hers. Aisha reflected on her personal growth amid it all. The wounds that had once crippled her doubt, now scars of strength. I started as the overlooked quota, she told the room, doubting my place in a white man's game. But exposing this network taught me resilience isn't solitary. It's forged in fire, shared with allies who choose to see beyond skin. We've implemented review boards for promotions, ensuring merit over bias and ethics protocols that honor the dream my father died for. It's not perfect, but it's progress. 100 words of hard-won reform. Audits on every deal, diversity mandates with teeth, mental health support for those betrayed by command. I've grown from victim to vanguard, learning that true power lies in lifting others as we rise. Her new task force, dubbed Equity Shield, embodied that vision. Building equity from the ground up, she declared, a unit dedicated to rooting out corruption and prejudice across branches. Comrades who'd once doubted her now served under her lead, their prejudices dismantled by her unyielding truth. As the hearing adjourned, applause rippling through the chamber, Aisha stepped outside into the Washington sun. She gazed at the eagle tattoo on her back, reflected in a nearby window, its wings spread wide. "Justice soars high," she whispered, an open ending to her saga, knowing the fight continued, but empowered to lead it. Overcome prejudice, we change the world. Share your resilient story. Join the fight for justice.